you won't be texting and driving with us up in your ride.
Trey gonna be that old guy in sandals and khakis with a butt.
I've been saying this for how long now?
Like I can't step outside naked.
He jumped into the river.
What did you do? Did you run
I
along
jumped
the river
in.
bank?
I let autocorrect make me look stupid on Facebook every day. With Luxembourg. I can't do it.
It's Luxembourg.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. That's what they all say.
You trying to get me to hump, do the hump again, something.
Ah!
Oh, look at you, girl.
I said it's too early.
Sexual tracking app on it, and it found that
Who is actually using that? Welcome home, gentlemen from the 4th Infantry Division, 4th ID.
Yeah, I think he was trying to be funny, but it kind of escalated.
I think he was trying to hit her on a discount. Oh, my nigga.
We used to listen to FM, but they pay the same old
Yeah.
You're all a bunch of Santa Claus. You know why? You don't have the guts to be what you want to be. You need people like this. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers. Just like that's the man.
And Mr. Trey, hop on it, bro. Take care.
What I make you?
I'm the product of no options on the table. Killing myself in my cave, my belly able. Can't go back to my work, became a slave. Like I said, no options on the table. I switched it up, them cats stay on the same plan. You need a bad guy, I'm the one to blame, fam.
Yeah, know it already. This is what to do where we at, what we doing, right? It is, of course, Wake and Make America show. It is, of course, Wake and Make America radio. And it is, of course, another episode of the show for our show, our new show here at the station, Wake and Make America show. And we're still waiting on Chris. I don't know what his deal is. I can tell, fun fact, I can tell that his basic B-word ass is not seeing my text messages. But this is what we'll do is we'll find out where he's at, because he's one of those people that he's not where he should be. And so sometimes you have to call somebody and be like, why are you late? And sometimes they don't answer because they suck. But either way, we'll get Chris in here probably at some point, outside of his normal technical schmifticulties. Excuse me, little groggy. So today's show is, of course, being brought to you on National Voter Registration Day. Let me remind you to get out and vote. Let me remind you to get out and get registered. Let me remind you that we can be diametrically opposed to each other's ideals. But at the end of the day, brother, listen to me, brother, we're still Americans, brother. And while I am your pain in the ass, loudmouth, punch you in the face, get punched back in the face cousin, America, I'm also your family, little bitch. Oh no, okay. Oh no, it appears that Chris has taken his pet to the vet and we are flying solo today. But I'll tell you guys what, maybe if he can sneak in here or something along the route or something, we can go from there. But yeah, Chris not going to be on the show today, calling out for an emergency, but we're still going to go ahead and knock out the rest of the show. Feel free to chime in. Today's show, I'm going to tell everybody, today's show has no political leaning aspect. We're going to talk about voter suppression. If you think that's political leaning, then you understand that maybe, it's not all it's cracked up to be. But today's show is 100% about looking into voter suppression, and as much as even police going as far as to show up to people's house and interrogate them for signing a petition. Here's looking at you, Florida. Right? So there's a lot to go over today on the show. Like I said, it does look like we're going to be flying solo. No Chris today. Oh no, I'm sorry. He says that he is almost home. So we will have Chris today. He might even be listening to us right now and hear me talking smack. We never really know what Chris is up to, bro. But what I can tell you is this, folks. We will get the Chrisinator. Chris Watkins will be on the show, apparently. So I guess I'll go in reverse here. Since Chris isn't with us, we can't really talk about what's going on in Florida with petition intimidation, and we can't really dive into the entire aspects of that. What we can do is go in reverse mode. We'll address the second half of the show's issue while we work on getting Chris in here and Chris getting home from his cat emergency. I sure do hope Chris's cat's okay, though. As a fellow lover of animals, not particularly cats, but I don't look. I'm not a cat guy, but I don't throw shade at the cat lady like JD Vance does. Here's looking at you, Chuck. So apparently Chuck now listen, we don't care who you meet, who you go see, what you do. We don't care on the show. We do, however, enjoy busting the fuck out of your balls when you shake JD Vance's hand, Chuck. Chuck, I sure hope that yo stank ass absolutely, you know what? I don't even care, Chuck. Listen, Chuck, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care if you shook JD Vance's hand, Chuck. I know you want it to offend me. Hold on. You all smell that? Oh, yeah. It smelled like Chuck wanted me to be offended. Chuck works here at the station, by the way, right? Chuck works here at the station. Hear me out here. Chuck is a show host here at the station. He hosts the Control Alt Go Against the Wall show. And Chuck wants me to just smell it. It smells like Chuck wants me to be mad at him for shaking JD Vance's hand today. But you know what? Chuck, I just hope you had sanitizer to just sanitize the bullshit. That's all. No, seriously, guys, here at this station, we don't give a fuck what you do. We really don't give a fuck what you really go do, but we will bust your balls for it. Trust me, when he sees my Kamala Harris shirt, because I'm going to send him a picture just to be a dick about it, he's going to give me a shit about it, as he should, because we're never supposed to go that far that we buy t-shirts, but yet we do. Actually, I just wanted something more for my donation than money. I don't know. I'm cheap. I'm literally America's favorite cheap-ass cousin. I'll take you to dinner, but I'm ordering something cheap. I'll buy you Domino's. I'm a big Domino's guy. Domino's doesn't pay me to say that. They should. Believe me, they fucking should. As much money as I spend there, they should just give me pizza for free. Domino's, hear me out. I just want free pizza, Domino's. My favorite fucking place, in all earnest, to grab a pizza. Yee! Yee! Ski! Honest answer. It's a quick pizza. It's a delicious pizza. It's a good pizza. No, all jokes aside, I have met many politicians and shook their hand. Once I disagreed with and once I agreed with. Once maybe I agreed with a little bit, maybe I agreed with a lot bit. A lot of bit. It doesn't matter. I have met many politicians. It is polite to shake their hand. And in Chuck's case, while I bash him and show host bash, like I do very well here, and I pick on everybody that works here because that's my job. But all jokes aside, Chuck actually met JD Vance today, shook his hand, thanks for his service. I would have been very interested. I'm kind of the dick that I'm not here to meet you. I'm not rude by you, ho. I just want to talk to you about policy, though. Facts. Like, what's up with the cat lady thing? Like I said, not a cat guy, but definitely not JD Vance anti-cat guy. I got love for the cat ladies, okay? Trey got love for the cat ladies, okay? Jay Dizzle, all right? Hear me out, dog. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about voter suppression, all jokes aside. And by the way, I'd be remiss if I did not announce that while with all the political going on and all the political commercials that ruin football for me, because I don't want to hear that shit from look, here's the truth. I don't even want to hear that shit from the candidate I support or candidates in the ballots and issues here in Colorado I support. Imagine someone telling you, I just don't want to hear even my own politician's commercial because I'm trying to fucking watch football. That's me. I'm telling you that right now. So anyway, so just keep that in mind Commercial America. Some of us just want to watch the fucking game. Maybe we went to the game on TV to get away from you. Hi, Chris.
Hi, bro. How's it going?
How's the cat?
He's all right. He's got a couple stitches.
Always
but
worried.
you know, mom, she freaks out. So
yeah, I got to worry about your pussy. Sorry.
Yeah, he got in a tussle with a fucking squirrel.
Oh, fuck no, dude. You do listen. No one except a baby chipmunk can fight a squirrel. Okay.
He sure gave it hell.
Age. Sketch is sketch. Or scratch.
And he's an old fucker too.
It was a scratch or sketch. I don't know. From Ice. I'm blanking on that one. So anyway.
Yeah. No one's eating cats here.
Well, I mean. Kagogi. No, I'm just playing. I don't eat animals. I raise them and love them. Guys, I wouldn't even eat the geese outside unless all hell in the sky was falling. Then geese, you better watch your fucking back, brother gotta eat. But as long as there's food at the grocery store, Mr. Geese, you are safe as fuck. All right?
Yep, sure ducking.
All you feral dare running around here eating all my fucking plant tops, because they don't eat. It's weird, dude. Like, they didn't eat my my banana peppers. They just ate the leafy material that grows them, you fucks.
Right.
I'm like, God damn it, you fucking deer fuckers. So anyway,
Yeah, they ate all the solar panels.
Almost want to leave up the thing that goes into my garden, like leave up the it's not chicken wire, it's like plastic version of chicken wire, same difference, right? But anyway, well, I would almost want to leave that up and just let them go in there and have at it, because it would just make breaking all that stuff down and putting a compost, tilling stuff, just less of a hassle if they eat some of it first.
Right.
I might do that. I might just
not a bad idea. I mean, I get deer in my garden and they fertilize the hell out of it.
I don't let them shit in my garden. I'm just weird about it. I'm like shit in the one I'm going to grow in next year. So your blue pen. I'm trying to take a fucking dump in the garden I'm working in now. I got to eat that shit, pardon the pun, later.
Yeah, but chicken poo's like the best.
No, I'm not talking about chicken poo. This is deer poo that bothers me. I'm not going to lie. Hella fertilizer.
They're vegetarians.
I know, they're hella fertilizer. Their shit is hella fertilizerable, because you're right. Like, they don't eat meat, so they're scant. Like, we would literally have scant because we're we're
herbivores,
bisexual with food. Okay, that's what it is. We're foodly bisexual. Okay, we fuck with both. Okay, that's what it is.
Most of us, anyways.
Right? I'm foodly bisexual. I will fuck some plants and some meat up.
Yeah, I like me steak and taters.
Even the producer kid's like, yeah, I'll fuck me something. You know what's funny is I'm not a big steak guy, though. A lot of my friends
really?
But I'm like, no, but if you don't eat red meat for like 3 to 6 months at a time, and then you do get a good steak or you do get a good thing, bro, it is like next level fire, though, let me tell you. I just don't eat a lot of red meat. It's not healthy. Is probably one of the biggest things I'll say. And it's really just not. It's not healthy to eat that much red meat. I know you fuckers, you big fuckers up in Michigan, you love your fucking red meat. And believe me, as a Latino island guy, I love my pork too, believe me. But I had to cut back on that and eat a lot more fish and chicken, bro. Because believe me, if you can stick it in the ground and roast it like, island Hawaiian style or Puerto Rican, island style in the ground, and you can fuck a pig up, I will fuck that pig up with my teeth, okay? Let me just tell you that much, okay? That's who I am. I am
Yeah, you need to get some banana leaves.
Look, my Muslim friends, I get religious devotion. Okay, no, I don't. I'm going to lie. I don't get religious devotion over food. But you're missing out, brother. I'm just telling all my Muslim friends, you're missing out, dog. Like, this pig is good. But I respect your choices. So I'm not going to force it on you. I'm just telling you. Like, I have one friend who doesn't eat pork at all. He's not a Muslim, but he just doesn't eat pork.
Well,
right?
It's like Indians and cow.
Bro, yep, exactly. People from India that are Hindu more specifically, do not eat cow.
Yeah.
And then you'll find a lot of Indian Buddhists who don't either, but I think it's just more of the Hindu influence, less of the cow situation, if you know what I'm saying. Like, more of their cultural, less of the actual cow being sacred to them, per se. And then you have Buddhist Hindu, because Buddhism is not a religion. So there's a lot of like there's Buddhist Christians, there's Buddhist Muslims, because it's not a worship, it's a philosophical way to, keep your mind right, as I like to say. Bro, I swear, I go like a week or two without yoga or meditation.
You feel off, don't you?
Without meditation and yoga, and I feel off. I don't need both all the time, although meditation I probably need more than I let myself have credit for. But yeah. So a lot going on. We are talking about voter and intimidation. We got you in here. And so since I got you in here, I just want to go over, so we're talking about voter discrimination, voter intimidation, voter repression, right? The main story for today's show is Florida law enforcement are investigating people who signed an abortion petition in what some are calling the finest form of democratic suppression, okay? However, before we can get to that, I did want to go over what the ACLU defines as the way politicians, left, right, or center, you can take your pick on this one. I'm not going to get in the middle of that. But I will say that how politicians are trying to block voters from the ballot box. And by the way, somebody tried to kill former President Trump again. Please stop trying to take that vote from us, whether it's for or against him. Please stop. There's no place for political violence in America. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that before we move on with our real part of what we really had planned for weeks for this show before that happened, okay? And since we already literally did a deep dive into this one, so I'm not doing it again, this guy seems to be on the other side. It's like 50-50 from each side of the aisle of who's tried to harm the poor bastard. Here's the thing. Stop fucking taking pot shots at people who are that you don't like and just do your American duty and vote against them. The guy literally shoots at somebody, right? And now you're in jail for the election. You literally took your way to vote for or against somebody yourself. You should feel disrespectful.
Right, good way to hinder the vote.
Like, good way to hinder your... So, and if you're for him, why are you shooting at him? I think that's just mental... Yeah, honestly, that's a mental disability. Well, maybe you're not for him. I should say a conservative Republican shot at him, and then what appears to be someone who had a lot of disdain from him, from what I was reading, took a shot at him. So like I said, we just remiss if we didn't mention that. That's not cool, guys. Please stop. If you don't like Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Kamala Harris, or Mr. Waltz, do yourself a favor. Go to the ballot.
Attack them on social media like everybody else does.
Fucking idiot. That's what I think. Not wrong. See, that's the worst.
Right. I mean, there's other ways to get them.
I bet you fucking prick. I want to throat punch you. I swear. But you're not wrong. I can't. I want to, but I can't. It would feel more like evil me. Which exists deep down in my soul. There's an evil person that will do some fucked up shit to you if you piss me off bad enough. Otherwise, I'm actually really super sweet dude who loves his grandkids. True story. Here's the deal. Isn't that every one of us? Isn't that every, I would say probably 20 to 50-year-old dude just doesn't want to have to throat punch the fuck out of you, but will? I mean, that's...
Yeah, right.
Every 20 to 40-year-old American guy. There's one or two pricks out there that are trying to throat punch the fuck out of everybody because those pricks have to throat punch everybody. And that's what they do. But the rest of us don't really want to throat punch you. But we will.
No, we just sat back and watched the shit fuckery.
Honestly, I just watch you piss off the guy that will punch you in the throat every time he punches you in the throat. But see, the difference between you
I might even video it.
America, the difference, the deep down desirable difference is I absolutely admit that I'm a dick. And I can be a dick about it, but I also know that I can be a sweet guy about it. It's called balance. Oh, fuck. Balance the chi. Yin and yang. A little evil, a little good, makes it hood. I don't know. I made that last part up. I grew up in the hood, but I grew up gang adjacent. I didn't really want to join one, but they were useful to have your back if you're getting beat up by another neighborhood kid.
Gang adjacent, huh?
I've decided that since he grew up hood adjacent, I still grew up in the hood. I grew up gang adjacent. That's where you don't join a gang, but you definitely used them to help back you when you were in trouble with somebody from the other side of the river.
Right.
Not that I'm saying nothing, although the jurisdictional time of juvenile nonsensory is far past my time. I'm in my prime, baby. All right, so let's do this, though. So here's what the ACLU says that politicians that are trying to block the vote. Now, what you should know is that voting, in my opinion, should absolutely be something that you can do fairly easy. It should be fairly accessible. Like if you have your birth certificate and social security card and maybe you don't have your ID, but you should be able to vote. You shouldn't have to go get an ID to vote. And I'll explain to you why, though. Because while I support vote, having an ID to vote, but there are some problems with ID voting restrictions where some people just can't afford to, or like, for instance, what if like you need an appointment to get your ID now and you can't get one for 2 months? It will be after the election, which means you'll be literally prohibited from voting, not because you're not a lawful voter in America, but simply because you weren't allowed to vote. You were restricted. Okay. So some of these restrictions, according to sources and the lawyers over at the ACLU, is voter registration restrictions. This is restricting the terms and requirements of registration that is one of the most common forms of voter registration, i.e. Ridiculous like hoops you have to jump through to get an ID to be able to get registered to vote, things like that. Again, waiting 2 months just for an appointment for an ID is ridiculous, right? And believe it or not, it's like that in many states. Wait 2 or 3 months for an ID. And they won't even give you something. And that's why there's like 30 things on the list of things you can get to get a job, because sometimes you can't even get an ID for 2 or 3 months.
Right. And, well, the other thing is, too, what about the homeless? Are they not capable to vote because they don't have an address?
What about selective service? Like, that's actually something that you can fill out an I-9 with and not have your ID anyway.
Right.
Just draft. You ready for it? Have to register with your Social Security card, but there's no ID. They know who the fuck you are. They've been tracking you since the day you was born. Like, that's what it is. So I think that's one way that's really big. I think another way is criminalization of the ballot box, having some very extremely severe or harsh penalties against voters who maybe checked the wrong box or this, that, or the other. There's some people in Florida that thought that their felonies were expunged. Maybe they weren't expunged right, and the police showed up at their door and arrested them. But were they really not allowed to vote? Did they even know they weren't supposed to? Is it something where you need to go to jail for 5 to 10 years over that? It's a bit ridiculous.
Right.
Not as when you do it with intent.
Well, yeah, and you and I both agree that fucking if you've done your debt to society, you should have your right to vote back.
Right. Like I said, it gets really interesting because people have been arrested and given serious, like, insane amounts of jail time over literally some of the most pettiest things. And you look at like Georgia, where they made criminalization of just handing out water to somebody waiting in line at a place where lines are notoriously long. It's hot, it's tiring, and it's exhausting in the South. And the ACLU did state this: because of racism in law enforcement and the broader criminal legal system, criminalization of the ballot box disproportionately impacts people of color who are more likely to be penalized, therefore less likely to vote, in fear of accidentally voting or doing the wrong thing, totally by mistake. And I think that's an understatement. Of wanting to just, like, hey, I want to do my civic duty. I don't want to, but at the same time, I don't want to do anything wrong. Well, hell, if I'm going to go to jail for voting or accidentally doing something the wrong way, then I'm going to just get out of that by simply not voting. And so then what you get is you only get the will of the people you're allowing to vote instead of the will of the people. So you're circumventing the will of the people, which is a huge part of blocking votes, right? Like that's
right. It's scare tactic to scare the people that might be afraid of doing, like you said, checking the wrong box. Minor mistake, and you're going to put them in jail for it. That's deep voter suppression.
And then also the felony disenfranchisation of the felons, basically. Saying that, like, if you ever been convicted, you can't vote, and that's just weird to me. So felony conviction can come with a drastic consequence of losing your right to vote. Some states ban voting only during incarceration, while others ban it while you're on probation or parole. But some states literally make it to where you can never vote again. And it disproportionately affects, again, black and brown people, because who is disproportionately arrested? So it's suppressing a huge chunk of minority vote in the country, but it's also doing it to poor folk.
Oh, extremely. You know, you don't ever hear about rich people going through that as much as you do the less fortunate.
Yep. A lot of the times, people will move. They'll change their address. They'll die in between what we call the gaps, the couple-week gap stop of voting early and dying at a couple of days before the election. It's happened many. Yeah, there's been a couple of times where like you'll flip on Fox News or like voter fraud, dead voter votes, and then you actually look in the real story and you're like, bro, they fucking voted a week before the election in early voting,
and then passed away.
Died a week later, or less than a week later. Did you realize that you could vote today and die tomorrow, dumb fuck? How fucking stupid can you be? It's erroneous. And then, worse off, there are people who do vote fraudulently, and they should be accountable. And we found that the disproportionately voters actually fraudulently voted for Donald Trump in the Joe Biden-Donald Trump election. Scary, scary fact. But when we did our inside investigation, internally to WNBA Investigates, I always wanted that Dick Wolf sound to go when I said that. Like, dead ass. But anyway, Wake and Bake Investigates. And when we did our broad investigation of voter fraud, what we found was that half the people that, quote unquote, voted and died, half of them actually voted before they died. The other half were people in their household who fraudulently voted for them. And I will tell you, it was odd that it was disproportionately people voting for Donald Trump. And the reason why I point that out is because the little boy who cried wolf story. You have the guy crying voter fraud, and then when we do an investigation of the actual numbers of voter fraud on the show, we found that the bulk majority of fraudulent voters were actually for the former president. So it's almost a little rich because you're like, dude, we investigated it. We looked into it. And at the end of the day, my guy, it was your peoples, as I will call them, fraudulently voting for you.
Yeah, it's funny that it was former Republican Party voters that fraud was cast on.
Was the guy getting the most fraud votes?
And still lost.
Can't help but laugh. Well, listen, here's the truth, though. You guys want to know how many fraudulent cases were found in the entire state of, like, Florida's 25 million population, 13 million voters or whatever? There's, like, 450 cases of voter fraud. And, again, the bulk majority of those were actually fraudulent votes for Donald Trump, and then also people who they deemed ineligible to vote for felonies. They don't tell you that. And they say it was voter fraud. What they don't tell you is that, like, of 400 and something cases of voter fraud, literally half of them were just felons or ex-felons who had been at least 20 years or longer, who didn't realize they still couldn't vote. And by the way, the state of Florida makes you wait like 5 or 10 years to have your case heard to get your voting rights back. And then they disproportionately disapprove them based off color. There was an investigation done when I lived in Florida about that.
Well, and the other thing, the 450 cases weren't even enough to let him win to begin with in the first place.
Yep. We call those leap voters, by the way. Leap voters are voters who vote like, I get my ballot like 2 or 3 weeks before the election, guys. Like, I get it in like late October, guys. I fill that bitch out and send it in early to ensure that I know they got it. And then the day of the election when they start opening them. And it's weird too, because they actually start counting the votes that are at the poll first while they're running all the ballots through the counting machines that were done early. And so you usually get it's weird. You usually get the early numbers later, which is also what blew people's mind in Trump's camp, because they could not understand that. And I said, and that's what makes you fucking easy to cheat. You can sheeple people that can't understand that they count the votes at the fucking poll starting at 7 a.m. when they open, and then some places like in Colorado, they start running those numbers, but in other places, they actually wait until the poll closes to do the mail-in ballots and so forth. So long story short, you're fucking nuts, people. Voter and then purging lawful votes is a huge way. They try to just find anything wrong to purge lawful votes. Of course, we already know about redistricting and gerrymandering, Chris. Like, come on, man. Like, those are the basic bitch ways to circumvent a vote.
Oh boy, and do they try that shit now. But I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have been on top of these states that are trying to gerrymander. And I do have to say, I mean, the lawyers out there have been on top of them.
Gerrymandering has been a problem going back to post-Civil War, because prior to the Civil War, they didn't have to worry about the colored folks vote.
You're right.
So in the Civil War, you didn't really see a whole lot of gerrymandering that went on until post-Civil War, and that's because, of course, you want to subvert the vote that you don't want. In this case, of course, them saying they're subverting, and honestly, guys, listen, I don't do the whole party thing. I just blame who's at fault right now, because yes, I understand that the Democrats actually gerrymandered the fuck out of the South back in the late 1880s, and even in the 1920s, and even in the 1950s. But the reality is that what we've seen is that whether it's liberal or conservative, we have seen gerrymandering. And there have been at times where the Supreme Court has had to step in and actually do something about it because of it. Full stop.
Well, yeah, I mean, back in the day, even women couldn't vote.
Man, I mean, honestly, dude, like, seriously, like, guys, like, I think that if you are alive, breathing, free from jail, meaning you can be on, I don't give a fuck if you're on probation or parole, you should be allowed to vote. You're out of jail. If we think, if we deem you safe enough to be paroled, and again, when I say we, it's really not the district attorney, it's not the judge, it's not us, it's actually a parole board that deems these folks worthy of being released, then you should be allowed to vote. I think that if you are incarcerated, then maybe you should have thought about that before you got in trouble. Let's be honest. Like, no, you don't have to like my answer on that, but here's the deal. Look, if you didn't want to be in trouble, I mean, if you wanted to vote, then you shouldn't be in jail. And then if you plead out for probation, then then that's the court saying that we agree that your situation is deemed only bad enough to give you a suspended sentence, because that's what probation genuinely is a suspended sentence, right?
Another reason to vote early.
Yep, another reason to vote early, because that way if you give your ass kitchen. In fact, your vote would count because it was signed and dated prior to the crime.
Yes.
Like, good, bad, or good, buddy, vote early.
We'll get the criminal vote one way or another.
But don't vote so often like that dude in Florida that voted like 8 times for Donald Trump. He's like, oh, come on, you can't do that. And don't be the guy who voted for Biden and his grandma's Biden because, she died and honestly, she didn't fill out the ballot and you didn't have no right to do that. And those are the kind of, or the Gallagher guy, I don't remember, but, and I'm giving you the very generic examples. You can go look up and find the information yourself. That's the way you're denying that guy's other 7 personalities, man. Right, you're denying somebody's personality. Oh wait, I deny personalities all the time. I'm like, swerve. Right. We do need to take a quick break because, Chris, when we get back, we do need to dive into this story out of Florida. So listen, obviously, election suppression and voter suppression has been a thing. We just talked about, depending on what side of the circumstance you're on, we've seen different sides of the aisle through different parts of history try to suppress vote and gerrymander. What I will tell you is I find it very fascinating that it always seems to be that the gerrymandering is designed to fuck minority communities. And it was fun. Like I was like, oh, so this whole entire white town, back before towns were mixed, let's be honest, this entire white town's vote counts towards this one, towards this Senate seat or House seat. But this black town is broken up into into 4 parts, and each of those 4 parts are connected to much larger white towns, so their vote is suppressed, right? We now, instead of seeing it done so much by race anymore, you see the gerrymandering take place where it's to stifle a political vote. Like, I'll give you a good example. The Republicans wanted to gerrymander, this is a true story, wanted to gerrymander Colorado's new House seat that we got in the 2016 election, right? And so they wanted to gerrymander that fucker and split up Colorado Springs. And we was like, nah, bitch. We are literally a county of over 1 million people in a state of about 6 million people. So, and south of a city of 3 million, 4 million, whatever the fuck it is now for Denver, it's a lot. But what I'm trying to get at is we deserve our own Senate seat our own House seat for this entire county if there's going to be fucking 6 or 7 in the state, right? Like, but they tried to gerrymander it out, and I was like, bro, come on. I will tell you that I do find it very interesting that people can't let sleeping dogs lie. They seem to want to redistrict every time demographics of parts of neighborhoods change.
Yeah, when they see like neighborhoods change and areas change, they seem to want to try and put a dividing line between it.
Well, and what they do is they'll try to bust up, like they'll say, I've seen them literally put like one corner, which happens to be a predominant. This is why it gets weird. This happened this time around. The Hispanic part of town, a town, right? And they put this one little corner of the town, and they attached it to like the entire county instead of the rest of the town.
Right.
And I was like, bro, like look, if you're gonna listen, gerrymander and go gerrymander, but if you go gerrymander, don't be so obvious. I mean, fuck, bro.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part. Like some of their demographic guidelines for, deciding each area, like you can blatantly see where they're splitting the line right down the middle
of a neighborhood. Yeah, a neighborhood in all likelihood would vote largely in agreement, so we'll split up that vote, which then diminishes the weight of that vote. And anybody who has ever had to fucking build a spreadsheet understands how weighted numbers work. And if you just bust up the area the right way, a big weighted number that could literally decide, control, or change a vote or policy or amendment in that state, town, or area, all of a sudden is gone.
Well, yeah, and that's some of the reason why they do polls and shit, so they can find out who's living where they're going to vote, yada, yada.
Yeah, but I will tell you, I absolutely 100% agree with the census, because I think it's necessary for so many reasons, even beyond just population count and demographics.
Right, but they're using that as a weapon almost.
Well, I didn't say it was all good. I just said there were. All right, on that note, I just got put in my place by Chris. Let's go to break. We'll be back.
Yo, son, bringing back America Radio.
Tell your friends about this.
Tell your friends up in the GS3. I got the chronic by the tree.
If human conflict doesn't wipe us out, guess what? Mother Nature will. I don't know if you watch the news at all, buddy, if you're busy laying in your IKEA bunk bed eating pomegranates. But apparently, the polar ice caps are melting. They say that in 14 years from now, the oceans are going to rise 3 feet. 14 years, 3 feet. Do you know what this means, ladies and gentlemen? This means that in just over 13 and a half years from now, I'm going to have to pull my picnic table back 4 feet. Unacceptable.
Hey, it's your girl, Cammie, Renee, and you're listening to Wake and Bake America Show. You know I bring you the best.
All right, it's time to have that talk. Yeah, I'm talking to you, homeowner. Don't you try to run away, townhome renter and apartment renter. Look, every time we move, they charge us a ridiculous amount of money. Every time you need something remodeled, Those people charge you a ridiculous amount of money. So this time, when I moved, I got my whole deposit back. Now, I can't promise you the same results, but what I can tell you is I went through Quality Peak Customs. That's right. That's handyman and remodeling. And at Quality Peak Customs, they're going to take care of you the best they can to help you get the best job you can. So whether it's moving out, needing your apartment brushed up for the handover, your townhome, you want to rent that out, you need it fixed up for the big remodel, hey, that house, when's the last time you've done something? Well, when you do it, why don't you call Quality Peak Customs at 719-964-6871. That's 719-964-6871. You can also email Quality Peak Customs at qualitypeak.customs@gmail.com for your free quote today. You can check out Quality Peak Customs on Facebook as well. Let's go with Quality Peak Customs for your next move, your next remodel, or the next time you need a helping hand around your home.
Hey, yo. Booming systems across Colorado.
Boom, boom, let me hear the crowd go.
We like the cars that go boom.
That means I'm chilling.
Lazy.
Are you troubled by pop culture references in the middle of the night?
Do you or a loved one experience feelings of dread finding collectibles in your attic or basement?
Joey, have you ever been in a Turkish prison?
If the answer is yes, then don't wait another minute. Pick up your phone and call the professionals. Control, Alt, throw against wall.
Our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve all your mind-numbing needs. We're ready to believe you.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. Trey from the Blunt Football Talk Show. Have you checked us out here on Wake and Bake America Radio? I mean, come on.
And that's how Bill Belichick's career is right now.
In trouble, gets away. Mahomes racing with the bad ankle and all inside the 20.
He's that fool.
Hey, tell me you didn't grow up in the projects without telling me.
I grew up put adjacent.
Parsons on the move, and Micah Parsons is in.
I used to be able to twerk until I took a twerking injury.
Ball comes out of his hand toward the end zone.
I hope it fucks your life up. I hope you fail. I hope you fall flat on your face. I'm like, these are my friends. This is us.
Scars you miserably.
Hey, what's going on? It's the Hungry Hustling American Dream Afro Man. Wake and Bake America. Yeah, you're chilling with Mr. Ashtray.
That's Mr. Trey, not Ashtray.
You're listening to Mr. Trey, and you know why. Yeah. Yeah.
Trey gonna be that old guy in sandals and khakis with a butt.
I've been saying this for how long now?
Like I can't step outside naked.
We jumped into the river.
What did you do? Did you run
I
along
jumped
the
in.
river bank?
I let autocorrect make me look stupid on Facebook every day. With Luxembourg. I can't do it.
It's Luxembourg.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. That's what they all say.
You trying to get me to do the hump again, sunset.
Ah!
Look at you, girl. I said it's too early.
Sexual tracking app on it, and it found that.
Who's actually using that? Welcome home, gentlemen from the 4th Infantry Division, 4th ID.
Yeah, I think he was trying to be funny, but it kind of escalated.
I think he was trying to hit her on a discount. Oh, my nigga.
You used to listen to FM, but they pay the same old
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I take a day out to wake and bake. I get up early to wake and bake. I tell my job I'm gonna be late. I'm gonna go back to
Hit it. Pass me that ball. Did you know the phone, Pee-wee? Okay, thank you, man. I actually told him. Anyway, although I don't like that point, it's a fair point. We are back from break. It is, of course, Chris Watkins coming to you live from Michigan. Mr. Trey coming to you live from Colorado. We are Wake and Bake America Radio, Wake and Bake America Show, the headline news show for you. By the way, don't forget to check out Newbie and the Doobie for all the weed news you want out there. It's all kinds of fun stuff. Of course, don't miss Chuck and Dillinger on Control Dog Against the Wall. Yeah, that's the funny one, if you ask me. And then, of course, check out our guys over on the sports show, Blunt Football Talk. You know they're
live and hot in action right now because it's season week 3 this Friday.
Yeah, buddy. Crushing it.
I'm just playing. Y'all lost. There's things that have happened this week that I just don't understand, but you'd have to go to that other show to find that out. Anyway, so, Christopher, send your love to the show by pressing the hot button. People, that's what we ask. Send your love to the show. We don't ask you for your money. We don't peddle like the poor. We're better than that. We're British. Only by descent. So anyway, we're the descendants.
We just want your hearts.
And we'll throw your tea overboard, bitch. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I got real American. I got real British. Formerly now American. All right, anyway, so, no, seriously. It's time for this, the main event. The headline news. Headline had read that Florida law enforcement officers are investigating the state's abortion ballot initiative. And so here's what I've been able to discover and figure out based on, you know me, I do factual information. I don't care about your feelings. Okay, I do care, but it's not when I'm delivering the factual information part, I promise. So, with that said, coming out of Tallahassee, Florida, the Associated Press, the state police in Florida are showing up at people's homes of voters, will sign a petition known as Amendment for petition fraud. Public Governor Santos has sent his quote-unquote voter police in order to visit homes of Floridians who signed the petition to quote-unquote confirm that they signed the petition. Now, critics say that this is the oldest, purest form of ballot initiative intimidation because they state that this disproportionately is going after people and people who specifically signed a ballot initiative that Governor DeSantis and some of his cronies at the state police, the state, whatever the fuck you clowns call your dumbass self, bitch. Anyway, my point is this. The one Sierra Torres Spelisi, a professor of constitutional election law, yeah, because we get the actual people that know what they're talking about involved, at the Stetson University College of Law, said that she doesn't know of any legal precedent that the state could use to challenge the signatures after the deadline in the first place. So what does she mean by that? Well, Torres Spelli told the Associated Press that that the Florida Supreme Court already allowed the abortion question to go on the ballot way back in April. Their opportunities to challenge any signatures deadline had passed, and this effort to question the signatures, even if it was completely on the up and up, is far too late. So, with that said, Chris, the Florida law, or excuse me, not the Florida law, I do apologize. The amendment in question, by the way, is that no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health, as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. It also provides one exception, which is already in the state constitution anyway, which is parents must be notified by their minor children before they can, or parents must be notified of a minor child who wants to get an abortion, which honestly, that actually makes sense. You know, you probably, you know, like this is still somebody's kid. They, you know, honestly, there should be, I don't know what to say to that because I would support my child in their decision if something went sideways and more importantly, if something went horrific. But either way, that's the law. The problem is, Chris, is that to qualify for the November ballot, supporters had to collect more than 891,000 signatures. They actually collected nearly 1 million, more than 100,000 more than they needed. So the issue, Chris, is even if every single signature that the state office says they are probing, okay, which is 36,000 signatures, and the bulk majority of them will be proven to be people who lawfully had the right to sign that petition, right? Their signature's a little off, so we can't accept it, even though it looks close enough, right? So they came up with 36,000 signatures that they have questioned. The issue is that 100,000 minus 36,000 is still a differential of 60. I can't even count right now because I'm so irritated by this. Anyway, 64,000. So long story short,
dude, they basically have 2/3 more the signatures than are in question over the necessary amount, which would then lead to Florida's governor is trying to have a ballot measure that the people of Florida voted to put, that literally petitioned to put on the ballot, and the people agreed that it should be voted on by the people and not decided by a politician. And then the governor is trying to get it ruled as basically invalid ballot measure or whatever.
Right, which is crazy because I mean, if they have enough signatures legitimately, then how are they able to even try to suppress it?
Look, there
Like,
are
what gives them the right to force a law not to be on there? Like, and it's way after the time in question, ain't it?
Yeah, the signature challenge deadline is passed anyway. So think about that.
It's the deepest form of voter suppression.
And that's why I saved this for the end of the show, bro. Because it's what I really wanted to talk about, that even when you, the people, say, hey, this is what I want to vote on. It's not a matter of I agree, not a matter of I disagree. I just believe that this choice to or not to should be left up to the the will of the voters, as long as, and again, and that's not just blatantly. I know a lot of you like always, and I'm like, well, sort of. So there's a percentage of people in your state, and you are required, I believe, to get a ballot measure on there. In some states, it's 10% of the population vote. You know, in some states it's like, 3% or 2% or 1%. It just depends on the state, and each state is actually allowed to decide what percentage of the vote of signatures you need to get for whatever, in whatever situation, right? The reason why it's not really hard for somebody to get enough signatures to get something on the ballot is because the same people that don't want your issue on the ballot made it that easy to get their issue on the ballot.
Right. Right. It's like if they weren't able to come up with a ballot that was in their favor, they're now trying to suppress the one that did make it on the ballot.
Well, remember, they don't want a ballot measure because they don't want the people to decide, because they have legislative control by party decision. So they're going with the party, bulk party, when there are a lot of conservative voters that are not religious conservatives. They are governmental conservatives. And they're out here screaming at the top of their lungs, overturning Roe v. Wade was not what I signed up for.
Right.
See, people forget, my dear friends, that there are two types of conservatives. There are religious conservatives and there are governmental conservatives. You can be both. You can be one or the other, but you'll probably get ran out the party like I did. I mean, they ran me the fuck up out of there, and I was like, bro, I just want people to have body autonomy, and I want religion to be kept in the home, not in my government or school. And I got kicked out the Republican Party over it. So it is what it is. I'm an independent. You make me vote for who you make me vote for. Love you. Miss you guys.
Oh yeah, get out and see the lunar eclipse tonight.
Kisses. I miss those parties though. I miss shaking people's hands like JD Vance. No, I'm just playing, fucking with Chuck. We love you, Control, throw against the wall. Anyway, so no, all jokes aside, I think that this goes into the purest form of voter suppression. When I think about some of the purest forms of voter suppression, this goes to the heart of it all, is literally preventing the people from deciding by trying to use everything from legal means. And then the Supreme Court in their own state shut them down and said, listen, you don't get to decide it because you don't like it. The people of the state said, I decided I would prefer us as the people decide. Whether that goes through or not, I would like the people to decide. Just like I don't want you guys to decide about cannabis because you made it almost miserable for people in our state to get it. I don't want you to decide about my body autonomy issues. Meaning the government should, like it's really weird that the same people that are like, don't tell me to get a vaccine, just happen to be the same people that are like, you can't have an abortion.
Right. And that's ironic as hell that, it's okay for you to say,
get a vaccine. That's your fucking choice. If you die, you die.
Right. Also, it should be the right of a woman to Get an abortion or not get an abortion.
Because trust me, I'm pro quarantine. You might not get that perfectly proven, perfectly safe vaccine. No offense, but you might not get that. That's cool. But if you're deemed sick and you get stuck quarantined, that's on you. You know, there's people that come to this country get quarantined. There's a reason behind it. You don't have the right to infect people. Some people need to look up the Supreme Court ruling from the, I would say the late 1880 to 1899. There's a Supreme Court ruling that had to do with, I think, spreading, it might even been spreading typhoid or something like that. But either way, it might have even been in the 1920s during the Spanish flu. That might be when the Supreme Court ruling was actually, all jokes aside. I might be off by 20 years, but the Supreme Court ruled that you don't actually have the right to be infected with an infectious disease and just trollop around and spread it. The Supreme Court actually ruled that. And guess what? There has never been a challenge to that ruling that has stood. The Supreme Court has always did with the 1920 or 1918, whatever the fuck it was, ruling that had to involve the Spanish flu. And the reason why is because people like Mary Typhoid, look up the story, quite fascinating actually. But anyway, so I always, but anyway, we're off topic. I'm just saying it's very fascinating that the same people that are saying, don't tell me to get a vaccine are like the same people that are like, you can't do this though, or you can't have this medical option. But I will tell you, maybe it's not as surprising as you think, because the people who say you can't, like, don't tell me to get a vaccine, are also the same people that are trying to prevent vaccine research, trying to prevent any knowledge of vaccines, and even more. And I'm like, look, how about we all just say, hey, it's cool, do you, boo? But if you get infected with something, I don't think you should be allowed to go to the mall. Like, stay home for a few days. You know, the one thing we learned from COVID was staying home for a few days actually is a good thing, and your work shouldn't be able to fire you for it.
Right. And you know, the messed up thing is, too, with the whole vaccine deal is, I mean, smallpox is coming back.
Because you dumb fucks, dude, oh my God, smallpox is the best one of them all. Oh my God.
Right, because it's been gone for decades. And now all of a sudden, because we have all these people that are against vaccines,
smallpox
I mean,
are why we have
look what's happening.
You know that, right? Like, smallpox are the literal reason we actually have vaccines.
Right.
And so
the reason we started getting vaccines.
Exactly. And so when I think about that, the whole reasons we have been able to have, you know, do you guys understand that when there was no smallpox vaccine, you would have between 1 and 2 children of 5 die? There's a reason people had 6 and 10 kids, because 2 to 3 of them would die from smallpox and other infectious diseases. I'm not saying you got to be, you know, I'm not going to sit there and say like you got to go get that vaccine, but I'm just saying that you don't understand.
Stop and think about it for a minute, though.
Wait, word this. Not every vaccine is a problem. Some vaccines aren't new, like the polio vaccine, for example. That it's not smallpox. I'm sorry, it was polio. I was like, what killed Delano Roosevelt? Because that's the one that's coming back too. Polio is making a comeback, and I'm like, guys, we literally got vaccines because kids weren't living, or and some adults like Roosevelt, and some kids like Professor X, believe it or not, that's based on some kids in that era, right? That were malnutrition, underachieved, you know, so forth, concentration camps, and so on and so on and so on, you know, during that time. And then on top of that, no polio vaccine, right? And so, guys, I'm trying to tell y'all, like, smallpox, polio was killing folks. Like, for real, killing folks. And because you didn't like the fact that we got told to stay home, you tried to vilify scientific fact that you can't change. So you tried to vilify it all, when the truth is you could have just been pissed off about the COVID vaccine and being told to stay home. But that won't change that the polio vaccine has literally been saving fucking lives since Delano Roosevelt was sitting in a goddamn wheelchair because it was too late for him.
Right.
I think it's an error to try to, so everybody tries to put it all in one box. I think this vaccine's bad. Maybe there is a bad vaccine, or maybe there's one that just didn't work out great, or just didn't do its job, or whatever. But it doesn't mean that it's all bad. It doesn't mean that because one kid had a problem or 10 kids had a problem out of 5 million that it's bad. It does mean that there's some more research to be had. Fair enough, but it's not all bad. And also, I think that in order to advance science, I don't think that you can't have problems. I think that we can't forget that.
You can't have problems. Like, I hate to say it, but there's going to be, shall we say, speed bumps along the route of scientific advancement to the point of space travel, people. Y'all realize we can't go to space with a cold? One cold could wipe out an entire crew on a ship. One cold. We cannot literally go to space until we can literally wipe out infectious diseases. There are going to be challenges along the way. I'm not telling you that you should feel like you have to be part of the research that makes those challenges, but I'm telling you, I'm going to pop out that arm every fucking time, and I'll tell you why. Because there will be millions of people that live for up to millions of years after me simply because I was willing to do my part as a human. Quite often, we become so self-centered, Chris, that it bothers me.
Well, yeah, your children, your children's children, your children's children. I mean, think
lives.
about the future of this country and this world, for Pete's sakes. I mean, you're so against abortion and whatnot. I mean, these illnesses kill people.
Right? All vaccines made in Taiwan. No, I'm just playing. That's not what he really said, but I was just making But all jokes aside, though, all jokes aside, it's one of those things where I go, we can't vilify every step in the human race. Like, I tell people all the time, you got people vilifying electric cars, and I'm like, they don't put off emissions. It's not a fucking debate that breathing carbon dioxide from gasoline vehicles is not great for the human soul or animals or even plants. It's not a debatable thing. We need to start slowly going backwards from fossil fuels as an example, right? And figure out some of, get a better way. Solar, this, that, and the other. There's ways that we can at least reduce and pull back. It's going to take a long time before it's ever all the way, not gas anymore, right? Let's be honest.
Well, yeah, because they're making it seem like we're just going to go straight from gasoline vehicles straight into electric. That's not going to happen, people. It's going to take decades for us to reach that.
Yeah, I still think we're going to need a much better battery. I think once we have the, shall I say, dilithium for all my Star Trek fans out there. Once we have the dilithium, we're getting off this bitch. Okay? No, seriously. Once
we can be the next generation.
Right. Once we get a battery that can go, like, I'd say in that 2,000, 3,000 mile range without having to be recharged, where you can go coast to coast kind of shit, right? Or let's say from like Seattle to fucking Miami, right? Like the farthest distance you can possibly go north to south, right? When you can do that on one charge, I think that's where we'll be to a point of that scientific achievement, because that's where I think we could power jet engines for long enough time that maybe they could become like where their turbines are alternators that charge the batteries that fuel the turbines. You see, yeah, cycle of reusable, even if it's not completely that way, it could be that way. But I'll tell you one thing, we don't figure something out that's much more powerful so it's the energy, what you get out of it from what you get. Like, for instance, gasoline is terrible. What it takes to get gasoline and natural gas out of the ground, right, to deliver it to be a combustible fuel in my car, the actual cost, when you think about $1.80 a gallon to do that, it doesn't seem like that outrageous, but it really is. When you really think about the bigger picture, that's outrageous. That seems very expensive. Like I said, if you could develop a car that could travel across the country, like Seattle to Miami on one charge, I think that we're starting to get to the point where space distance travel is real, or even hyperspace travel, right? But you're always going to have somebody that's going to go, I think driving a classic Mustang is better than fucking doing what's right. Look, dude, when Edison flipped on the fucking lights, my brother, and when Tesla discovered that you could transmit electricity through the ground and over the air without hurting anyone, right? When those two discoveries were taking place nearly at the same time, let me tell you something, Chris, that will make you laugh. Do you know how many people said they would rather stick to very extremely flammable kerosene? How many people said they'd rather stick to very extremely flammable whale blubber? That they would rather stick to candlelight when electricity was going to be cheaper and easier to deal with, and also more usable and efficient, right? And people were still like, nah, ain't fucking with it.
Right, because people are afraid of change.
Right.
Exactly. That's the human instinct. That's the problem factor, I think. Everything from just living next door to like a black guy when you're a white guy and you never lived next door to a black guy before bothers people, all the way to just understanding that, honestly, don't listen to these politicians. Listen, let's be honest. A car that doesn't put off any emissions cannot be more harmful for you than the car that does. Just stop falling for the hype. But don't fall for the hype on the other side either, that we could just flip the switch and we cool. It's all
Right,
everything's all.
because that's not going to happen.
Oh, we need hydro. I think we need hydroelectric generators. There's got to be a few more things damn the fuck up that create energy power source, right? And then also, I think solar's great, wind's great, and all that will slowly dissipate the need for other things like fossil fuels. But it's not overnight, guys. It's not in our lifetimes. That's, I think, the part on the far left that I think always makes me giggle, Chris. Just before we get out of here. We've gotten deeply off topic, but it's a great conversation. But before we get out of here, that's one thing that does befuddle me about the far left. I'm like, I always say you'd sell a lot more people with the honest long-term time frame it takes, and the transition is slow and arduous and so forth, and it just takes time. But also at the same time, you like, for instance, you can't look me in the face and tell me a combustion car is better for me breathing air and in the environment than something that doesn't do any of that, right? Like, you can't say that. However, we can't just flip the switch. All you Looney Tunes on the other end. I promise you, that's crazy talk to me.
Right. Our electrical infrastructure can't handle what they're trying to talk us into doing. I mean, it's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen in 10 years.
Then you got those dipshits in Texas that are on the wrong grid or on their own failing, so they have dude, how is the U.S. grid not at least your backup? You're an idiot. That's how. It's the only thing that makes sense. So anyway, the things I gripe about at night, at the end of the day, what we learned on this show was that there are literal, legal, targeted ways that are legally known by legal or by lawyers and scholars, legally used ways to subvert the American public's right to petition and vote. And in Florida, it is extremely extreme fear mongering to send the police to somebody's house. And one person said, like, they were here for like an hour interrogating me. Bro, seriously, this petition, this reason, is that your signature? Yes, I remember signing that like outside of King Supers or something. Okay, have a good day. But these people, that's not what's happening, bro. These people are saying they're being essentially detained at their home by way of an interrogation for an hour or so. And that seems really, 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 really down the line of clear and cut voter intimidation, and just another way that is corruption and another way to corruptly try to subvert the vote of the American public. And because you don't have to subvert the vote by subverting the vote. Here's a way to subvert the vote. Try to have the Florida Supreme Court completely remove a bill that nearly 1 million people petition to have it put on the ballot, and you're trying to have the Supreme Court subvert that in your state, and the Supreme Court told you to go get fucked. So now you're trying to challenge 36,000 signatures by intimidating voters or intimidating, petition signers who are all presumptive voters, and you come up with 30,000 or 36,000 signatures that you say you can't validate, but they had 100,000, over 100,000, actually, not exactly 100,000, but over 100,000 more than what they needed. And the issue I take with that is that you're trying, what's the word? You're throwing pasta at the wall and hoping something sticks. Yeah? Is that the right word?
Yes.
Yeah. It just sucks. It sucks to watch the level of stupidity, and then worse, and Chris, I'll tell you, worse than the stupidity sucking, it's watching the American public literally fall for that. Like, literally say, yeah, I want a and again, I'm going to go back to the abortion versus the vaccine crew, because a lot of them are actually the same. One and the same people. A huge chunk of them are one and the same people. And I'm going like, you don't want the government to tell you to get a vaccine, but then you want the government to tell you you can't have a medical procedure. Like, what in the hell kind of backwards world are you from? And again, we
right.
and again, maybe that's the way your state wants it to be. I think as long as the vote is allowable in an honest way, I'll say it that way, right? Okay. If the vote is allowable in an honest way, then the people are going to tell you what they want. Fair?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely fair, and you know, that's definitely how it should be. But you know, it is. It's just absolutely nuts that you can have a side say, you know, we don't want to do this, but we don't want you to do that. You know, it's crazy.
Well, think about this. Florida is one of the few states where they have a 2/3. Well, it's not 2/3. They have nearly 2/3 vote requirement, so 60% to pass something. I will tell you, I find that interesting because that's definitely not majority rules. That's like extra majority rules. And I think that what that does is here's the reason why the 60% vote threshold was put into Florida, because they are trying to prevent, just this is another example of Florida's flaws, right? In Florida, they are trying to prevent and or circumvent vote that way as well.
Yeah, they're trying to play the numbers game.
I'm telling you, it's crazy to me to watch people be okay with that. You can agree ideologically with a politician, but when they're telling you, don't let your doctor make a decision for you on something, don't let your religion even make a decision on something for you, because in my world of religion, you can go have an abortion. That's your business. It's your fate at the end of your life, as I say, right? Like whatever you decide, you have to deal with. You reap what you sow, as they used to tell us in church, right? It's really funny that they say you reap what you sow and then try to stop you from sowing. Like, think about that for a second.
Right, exactly. I mean,
I'm like, you're not letting me make my own decisions in my own life, and then telling me you want to make your own decisions in your own life on like vaccines. I love to use that as the absolute diametrical opposition to anyone who I'm like, okay, they're like, I'm anti-abortion. Cool. The first thing I say after that is are you pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine? And as soon as they say anti-vaccine, if they say pro-vaccine, trust me, I'm a master debater. Okay, master debater. I'm saying it really fast. It sounds like I'm just a master debater, but anyway, I'm a master debater. And the facts are this, Chris. I already have an answer for that one, but that's not what we're going to address today. I wait for them to say I'm anti-vaccine. I'll make my medical choices in my life and blip, 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 blip. And I'm like, but you're certainly comfortable with the government making a medical choice in someone else's life when they should probably be doing that with their doctor. You would agree, right? And they're like, yeah, except abortion. And I'm like, why do you have an exception for that one medical procedure? So then maybe we should have one exception for vaccines, just one exception for all you nasty fucking infested roachy like fucking larva carrying fucking gross ass inflammation gout having. Oh wait, that's me. Never mind. The gout thing was me taking on attacking myself. No, seriously, all jokes aside though, if you want to carry around an infectious disease, maybe we should only have that one mandate right alongside abortion that says, you're right. You're not capable of making abortion choices. And also, you're not capable of making your own vaccine choices. So we're going to make sure that you get a vaccine or you go to jail.
or how about your right to carry and bear arms?
Crazy talk. That's crazy talk. Is it though? Because that's exactly what you're doing to people who are trying to make a medical decision. Look, I can do this for days, but we don't have days. I actually have something I have to go do. Fun fact. It's called a life. Believe it or not, I have one. Chris, listen, I really enjoyed the show today because it really got into it is at the heart of a very critical time in our country where, you know, the will of the people can be subverted at times. It's not what you think with Donald Trump. Bro lied. There were hundreds of courts that said, go fuck off. It's dumb. Go fuck yourself. You lied to your people, and then you got them to riot nonetheless. You lied, and you got them to riot. Get over it. That's what happened. But when you literally are trying to remove an amendment that petitioners put on a ballot, that's pretty bad. Like, bro, there's states where they wouldn't even remove Kennedy because he had already certified to be on the ballot. While I sharply disagree. If someone drops out the race and you haven't printed the ballot, you should remove them. So I sharply disagree with leaving them on there because it confuses voters. I also understand why they did.
Right.
There are deadlines. There are, like the former president had deadlines to challenge all of this stuff, and he did those in those deadlines. And he got told to go fuck himself, but he did do it. People were upset that he was challenging. Remember, Chris? And I said, stop it. I was on a regional radio show on AM/FM, guys, and I was telling people, stop it. He has the right to challenge it. I made fun of him and explicitly explained that he would lose those lawsuits. I was right. Get over it. At the end of the day, though, he had the right to do that. Ron DeSantis had the right to challenge this stuff. The pro-life, as they call themselves. I don't know how pro-life you are when you don't care about kids that are living right now. I always ask pro-life, I'm like, you're pro-life? They're like, yeah. I'm like, you care about kids? They're like, yeah. I'm like, all right. So you're fully on for pre-K and fully on for kids to have breakfast and lunch at school? No.
Fact.
I'm like, so you don't care about? Yes, I do. I'm like, no, you fucking don't. I can do this all day. I am, again, a master debater. Even when I masturbate, I'm still debating masterfully.
Right, because we even as a radio station tried to battle the whole food insecurity problem.
Yeah, see, us here at the radio station have paid off. We raised money to pay off lunches for kids, all kinds of fun stuff. We went to one of our most wealthiest donors and, we begged him for money at his mansion in Denver. Like, we basically went into this, what we refer to as the castle, because it kind of looks like an old medieval castle in old Denver, and not a medieval.
Hear he.
Really a nobleman's crib. Either way, dog. Anyway, so I just remember going there and literally, hanging out with them. I volunteered to be on his game show. Yes, I was on a game show. It was only on the internet, but still, it is what it is.
Please, sir, we need money for the poor.
I mean, bro, basically I showed up to the cool Scrooge guy that was like, yeah, I'll fucking help you out, man. You want to do a game show too? It's a stoner game show. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm in. So anyway, so we food insecurity is a big issue here. I grew up, with a mom on food stamps and mom literally locking the cupboard. No kid, if your kid's hungry and they need a snack, you should be able to just be like, yeah, go grab, a ramen noodle, a cup of noodle. My mom was locking up ramen noodles, a cup of noodles because they was a meal, man. No kid should have face food insecurity. And so it's a big deal over here. So I always say, to those pro-lifers when they're like, screw you, man, pro-life. And I'm like, okay, so you care about kids, man. You really care, right? Yeah. Okay. So then we should do fully nationwide. No. And I'm like, what do you care about? You don't care about kids. Buzz off, homie. On that note, Chris, let's get out of here for the day.
Right. Because you have to not only care about them before they're born, you have to care about them after they're born.
It's weird. I think people forget that. Are you my dad?
Right.
This is your station. I like this right here. The People's Station. Monuments, Falcon, and Colorado's Springs.
Here comes the heat, y'all.